Yeah, and I have those food sensitivities. I had those gut infections, and really, and for me, the adrenals. I know when I load on too many things, that I literally I'll see my hair start to fall out. So it's like that. It's stress is, yeah, highly, as you say, highly tied or correlates with the thyroid, and I can see when I've overdone it, what, how that impacts me. Then my skin starts to go even drier. So it's welcome everybody back to another episode of Fab Fertile TV. I'm Sarah Clark, and we've got Brandy Busco here with us as well.
Hi, Sarah.
Hey, awesome. So today we are going to be talking about thyroid health, and we talk about a lot of this during our couples coaching program, and definitely refer back to episode 44 on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast. We've got Janie Bowthrope talking about thyroid health, and with her website, actually Stop the Thyroid Madness, is a huge resource for all things thyroid. But it's super important for fertility, and we always ask our couples to actually get a full thyroid panel, including antibodies. So maybe just kind of share with us why it's so important and often overlooked.
Sure. So a lot of times when you go to your doctor, they're going to test what's called TSH, or thyroid stimulating hormone. And that's actually a hormone that's secreted by the pituitary that signals the thyroid to make thyroid hormones. And so oftentimes thyroid issues will be missed because we're just checking TSH. And TSH levels can look normal for a long period of time before and then there could be stuff underlying, like maybe you have antibodies that your body's creating to your thyroid that's causing that destruction of your thyroid, and that can go on for years before you see an abnormal TSH. Or maybe you have your thyroid hormones that aren't converting properly. Your TSH still looks normal, but your thyroid hormones like your T4 and T3 are really low, and that's not going to be reflected in your TSH. And so you're going to have a lot of thyroid symptoms. But if you're only checking TSH, which most doctors do, it'll get missed very, very often. So it's really, really important that if you're checking your thyroid, that you do a complete thyroid panel that looks at not only the TSH, but also at things like your T3, your T4. So T4 is inactive thyroid. T3 is the active form of thyroid. You also want to be looking at thyroglobulin antibodies, so TPO antibodies, TG antibodies. Those are all really, really important because it gives us some clues and some information on how the health of your thyroid is doing.
Yeah, and now I actually have hypothyroidism, and I was told my TSH was in the normal range for years. So Brandy and I discuss on the Get Pregnant Naturally podcast, episode 32. We talk about all the blood chemistry, and specifically about functional range for thyroid. So definitely check that out. But a lot of times you can be told your thyroid is normal, and typically for fertility and for optimal health and functional medicine, you want it below 1.5, and mine was at, I think, 3.5, and I had, my hair was falling out, my skin was super dry, my what else was going on? Yeah, those, and yeah, and I kind of would have that fatigue as well. So some of these symptoms that a lot of us are like, when we've been told our thyroid is normal, and then you've got chunks of hair coming out, while they're it could be a reason.
Right, and it's also important to know that thyroid isn't always the actual issue. It could be sometimes, a lot of times we call it secondary thyroid issues because it's secondary to something else that's going on. So it's really important to know that gut health plays a very big role in being able to convert T4 to T3, so inactive thyroid hormone to active thyroid hormone. The liver is also really important in that conversion. So if there's some dysfunction going on in your gut, like you've got gut bugs, you have leaky gut, you're not digesting food properly, that's going to affect your thyroid. So you may think that it's hypothyroidism, and your doctor might put you on thyroid medication, but you don't feel good because it's not actually addressing the problem of why that happened in the first place. The other issue that happens is the thyroid and the adrenal glands work really, really closely together. So if you have a lot of stress going on and your adrenal glands are trying to keep up, they communicate with the thyroid, and the thyroid might slow down as well to kind of stay in pace with the adrenal glands to not produce an excess amount of stress. And so it may not be your actual thyroid that's the problem. It may be that you need to support your adrenal glands, where you're giving them the nutrients they need. You really have to work on stress and sleep. I mean, all of these things are really, really important. And then another really, really big one with thyroid is food sensitivities. So a lot of times people will have food sensitivities and have thyroid symptoms, and it's not necessarily the thyroid that's the issue. So again, you'll go to your doctor and maybe your TSH is abnormal and they give you something like Synthroid, but you'll feel good for a little while, but it doesn't address the problem because it was food sensitivities to begin with. So it's really, really important to dig deeper, not just address or look at the number on the paper and take a medication to change that number. Now, it's not to say that thyroid medication isn't beneficial, because it is very, very important. There are some people that definitely need it. So we're not saying go off your thyroid medication and do all these other things. That's not the case, but it's always good to dig deeper and find out, why did this happen in the first place? So Sarah, you mentioned you have hypothyroidism. I have issues with my thyroid that's secondary to the fact that I have celiac and food sensitivity. So I don't need medication, but I do have to monitor it because I have nodules on my thyroid, and I can get those thyroid symptoms when if I've been exposed to gluten, for instance, and I have a little bit of a flare, or if I'm not sleeping enough, or if I get sick. And it's not because it's the thyroid that's the problem, it's these other things, but the thyroid does get affected. So it's a lot of different areas in the body that communicate together, and it's really important to dig deeper.
Yeah, and I have those food sensitivities. I had those gut infections, and really, and for me, the adrenals, I know when I load on too many things, that I literally I'll see my hair start to fall out. So it's like it's stress is, yeah, highly, as you say, highly tied or correlates with the thyroid, and I can see when I've overdone it, how that impacts me. Then my skin starts to go even drier. So it is a fine balance, and being able to kind of tune into your body, but looking at those functional levels is a thing. And then also looking at the thyroid medication you are taking. A lot of times people are just prescribed Synthroid, or what's another one that they're prescribed?
There's levothyroxine, which
Right.
is essentially Synthroid, which is a T4 only medication.
Mhm.
And like we said before, T4 is the inactive form. And if maybe you have plenty of T4 but not enough T3, it's a conversion issue, then that Synthroid or that T4 only medication may not help you. So that's why it's really, really important to dig deeper. And the other thing I wanted to add is, a lot of the symptoms that we've talked about with thyroid can be symptoms of other things. So dry hair, dry skin, hair falling out, those can also be related to your adrenal glands. Those can be related to low minerals. Those can be related to low iron. So that's why it's really, really important to do the testing and not just make the assumption, oh, these are the symptoms, you have thyroid, here's a thyroid medication. That's the Band-Aid approach, and that's not the approach that we'd like to take.
Absolutely. You have to dig deeper. Awesome. So if you wanted to schedule a call, and we can talk about if you think maybe the thyroid is something going on for you, if you want to talk more about that and see how we can help, you can schedule a free call, and the link is down below. So until next time.